Welcome back, everyone. It's here. And today I've got some r/BestOf for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading you the posts, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. This post was collected by Glumcraft4652. The original OP is Anxious Breath 1596, posted to r/marriage, April 13th, 2024. My brother-in-law just told my wife he's in love with her. Anyway, yesterday, my brother-in-law, out of the blue, asks my wife if she can meet him for lunch. There's something he needs to talk to her about. My wife tells me about it before accepting and asks if it might have something to do with my sister. Maybe they're having problems and he wants to discuss with another woman. I find it odd, but I tell her to go find out. So, she accepts, and they meet for lunch at a place near her office the next day. That's where he tells her that he is in love with her. He lays it on thick, how beautiful she is, how she makes him feel, how he would treat her if she were his, how it was love at first sight, blah blah blah. Mind you, this man is married to my sister and has 2 kids. He and my wife had a friendly relationship. Our families see each other often as we are a close family. He does text her frequently, but there was nothing overly sexual. My brother-in-law texts and calls my mom too, so none of us thought anything of it. I want to stop a moment and emphasize that my wife isn't cheating on me with him. My wife and I share an iPad, and I see every one of her texts from there. We're also looking at each other's phones all the time, so none of that is going on. So she doesn't let him finish, walks out, and calls me immediately to tell me what happened. While she's on the phone with me, the texts from him start. He didn't mean it. He thinks it's only infatuation, blah blah blah. She leaves work early to come home to talk to me about this, and her phone is blowing up the entire time with calls and texts from him. I tell her to answer, and she put him on speaker so I can hear. He's crying, begging not to tell my sister. Apparently, when we were together this past weekend, he thought that she was flirting with him, and that he thought they had a moment when they were alone in our kitchen. Now, my wife is a major ballbuster, and I suppose I can see how that can be taken as flirting. He asks if she told me, to which I answer, yes, I'm on speaker. Then he starts begging me. This went on a while. My main question was whether he had cheated on my sister before. He said no. Swore on his kids' lives. It's just my wife. He said I should understand. So I'm done listening at that point, and told him I wasn't going to do anything tonight, and I would call him tomorrow. That's where we are right now, and I really don't know what to do. My wife says drive over there right now and tell my sister, but the idea of wrecking my sister's family is killing me. Thinking about what it will do to my nieces makes me want to vomit. I know the right thing to do is tell my sister, but I'm also thinking about my wife as well. It's not her fault, but there is sure to be resentment towards her from my family. Even if my sister doesn't divorce him and they reconcile, I can't see how we're ever together again like we were before, if at all. This whole episode can tear my family apart. I don't give a shit about him. He tried to destroy my family, but I do care about everyone else. I don't know what to do. Any advice will help. Update within the post, after a few hours. So, everyone that told me last night that I couldn't wait to tell my sister was right. A little after 12 last night, I get a call from my sister and says that she has to tell me that my wife tried to begin an affair with her husband. So he tried to pin it on her. I told her that's not the case, and I will be right over. So I get on the phone, wake my mother and father, tell them what's going on, wake my younger brother, tell him. My mom and dad head to my sister's to sit with her kids, and my brother comes to our house to sit with ours, and my wife and I head over. My sister is out in the front porch with my brother-in-law when we get there. He looks beaten. He knows we have texts and voicemail. I really don't know what he was hoping to accomplish. My wife gives my sister her phone. She sees the texts, listens to the voicemails, and he starts sobbing before she can say anything. My brother-in-law is a firefighter, a big tough guy, so this is a scene. My sister is pretty tough. She tells him to stop it, pack a bag, and go. She can't stand to look at him. There's more begging, but she has no patience for it. So my sister walks off to talk with my wife. I see them hugging, so at least I feel like they're okay. They have actually been friends since college. I met my wife through my sister, so they are tight. The thought of this wrecking her friendship had been weighing on me. This leaves me with my brother-in-law. He's broken, so I feel more sympathy than anger. He says he's sorry, he just couldn't help it. It's not hard to fall in love with my wife, so I get it, but damn, man. He eventually picks himself up and leaves, so we were there all night. My sister starts asking my wife why her husband would think any of this would work out. He had to have some reason to believe that she felt the same way. My sister says they hadn't been having problems. Everything was as it had always been. My wife is crying at this point and says there's nothing you haven't seen. She gives my sister her phone again and they read every text ever sent over the past 2 years. Nothing there. My wife was just herself. She has a playful personality and so does my brother-in-law, so they do tease each other. She does the same to my mom and younger brother as well. The only thing she could think of was the moment in the kitchen this past weekend he referenced. They both went for the fridge at the same time and they playfully jostled for who would get there first. He lets her win, but he reaches around her waist to get a beer slowly, and she did feel the way that he did it was a little inappropriate. She says she should have called him out on it, but didn't want to make it a big thing. She feels maybe the fact that she didn't gave him hope. My sister doesn't blame her, so at least that's good. So then, my sister starts going through his MacBook to see what else she doesn't know about. She's angry and frantic at this point. She guesses the password, starts searching, and finds a lot of pictures of my wife on that computer. They went back years and always isolated on just her. We had gone as couples to the Caribbean a few weeks earlier. My wife wore a bikini. She usually doesn't, but since it was adults only, she did. There were probably 50 of her in that bathing suit. So he's secretly been snapping these for years. Does this now enter, restraining order territory? This has taken a creepy turn. I'll have an update when I have more. Top and relevant comments. Paul in VA. Tell your sister now. User Playful Tap 6136 comments further, before he gets to spin the narrative and tries to make your wife the villain. That's ironic. User Shimos for me. You're not wrecking your marriage, he's doing that. You will be wrecking your relationship with your sister if you don't tell. And you should be the one to tell her. Your wife should not be involved in that conversation. You don't want her to be a target of your sister's anger. Go to your sister's house in the morning. Do not warn him. Be straightforward and bring snapshots of those texts he sent. Lofi responds, I don't think my sister will be angry with my wife, but how do you not feel some sort of resentment? User Balanced Breaks responds, the longer you wait to tell your sister, the more betrayed she will feel by you both. I understand taking some time to think through what you want to say, but you're giving him time to come up with a story to make you both look like the bad guys. Update. A day later. I've shared with my wife many of your comments. It makes her feel better that virtually everyone here holds her blameless. It makes her feel better, so thank you. Unfortunately, the mess continues. My sister agreed to talk to her husband last night and let him explain. She puts my wife on FaceTime during this conversation, so there will be no lying. I'm listening in as well off camera. My sister is also recording the whole thing. He admits he's been obsessed with my wife for years. It started the day he met her. My wife and I were dating at the time, but he met my wife before he met me. Like I said, my wife and sister are longtime friends, and my sister wanted to introduce her boyfriend to her friends. He thought it was only physical for a while, but over time, he knew it was more. My sister nearly kicks him out right there, but listens a little more, and she eventually asks, what made him think that my wife would leave me for him? He answers that there is obviously mutual attraction, and he figured it would begin as an affair, and then things would progress from there. My wife and sister explode at that point. A lot of cussing, a lot of screaming. Phone call is over. My wife hangs up because at this point she is concerned for me. She's shaken and distraught, assures me the attraction was one-sided. I never thought it wasn't. Even if she did find him physically attractive, I know she would never act on it. She's just not the type. Early on in our relationship, she caught me admiring her while she was dressing. Asked if I liked what I saw before her face turned cold, and told me never to fuck up or I'd never see it again. She meant it. She's serious about trust. Anyway, I knew my brother-in-law was a little cocky, but my God, I never thought he thought that highly of himself to be able to pull off something like this. I talked to my sister later on, and she's contacting the lawyer Monday to see what steps she can take to limit his exposure to her kids. As far as she's concerned, he is detached from reality. That's all I have for now. I'll update once the dust settles a bit. Top/relevant comments. User AnyDecision470. This update was explosive. He needs professional help. His secret fantasy became an obsession. Edit to add, so sorry this happened to your family. I'd worried that when his life falls apart, that his obsession could turn dark. He could go from loving her to blaming her. Keep all evidence and get a restraining order. Paul in VA further comments, my wife and I were talking about this, and that's what we thought. He wanted to start an affair and then go from there. There is no way to recover from asking your sister-in-law to have an affair if the feeling isn't mutual. You've torched everything. Incredibly high-risk gambit with a low success potential. But he would have done this sooner or later, with or without the kitchen incident. OP responds, he had made comments to me many times through the years that my wife was out of my league. I would just laugh and agree. She is. I guess he thought his gamble was not so high risk. User Pure Obligation 8023 comments, such unmanly behavior and so sad that a grown man has let down so many people who likely respected him, like this. The photos of your wife that he's collected over the years are another level of betrayal and creepiness. He's been exposed and his reputation is in tatters, and he obviously has disordered thinking. I feel like there's a fair chance that he may try to do something stupid as a result of all of this. Final update, 2 days later. This is likely to be my final update as I don't see much more happening after this besides divorce proceedings. Thanks for the comments, they have helped my wife some with the guilt. Anyway, my brother-in-law returned home yesterday, not because my sister wants him back, but because she can't legally stop him. They're done. I think he realizes that now. The lawyer tells my sister that since my brother-in-law's behavior over the past few days has been documented, there is a good chance she will be granted full custody. He doesn't seem to even want to fight her on that. My sister will be fine, any love she had for him is gone, and she doesn't seem too broken up about it. The kids don't know what happened yet, but my brother-in-law was never around much anyway when the kids were home. He slept at the fire station many nights and put in a lot of overtime, but it is certain to be hard on them once they know what's going to happen. Many commenters have said that there must be more women, but as far as we can tell, there hasn't been. It's really just the obsession with my wife. She has blocked his phone, but on the same night he returned home, he sends my wife an email from an account he just made. It started with an apology, but then took a turn. He said he never got to finish at the restaurant that day, that he went on for paragraphs and paragraphs about all the things he loves about my wife and the desperation he felt that led him to do what he did. He mentioned their mutual attraction again, and the sexual tension that he always felt between them, and ended with a rather long section about me. Let's just say I didn't know he had such a low opinion of me. He was quite certain that I was not satisfying my wife properly. Anyway, we sent the email to my sister, and it will go to the lawyer. What a fucking dumbass. It might be enough to get him removed from the house. Finally, my wife isn't great, but she is doing better every day. She doesn't blame herself for being too comfortable around my brother-in-law. She's always careful to set boundaries with other men. In case you haven't figured it out already, my wife is pretty stunning and gets a lot of male attention. But with my brother-in-law, she felt safe to be herself since he was family. Surely no lines would be crossed. She and my sister are cool, and there doesn't appear to be any resentment, so that makes me happy. We will all be okay, it will just take some time. Thanks to all who commented and voiced their support. Top/relevant comments, user AnyDecision470. What a bomb that he threw in to blow everything up. Please take steps to secure your home and car. Remember a restraining order so he can't come around trying to explain or convince or apologize to your wife. Hoping your sister can do what needs to be done and can move on to a better life. OP responds, I don't think my brother-in-law is dangerous, just conceited. The guy was quite the ladies' man before getting married and still got plenty of attention even after. His ego is bruised, but I do have cameras and an alarm. Deleted user, thank you for sharing the sad story. It has been helpful for me. My wife has been casually pursued by a married member of my club, and she's usually too surprised and modest to assume what he's after. When he first started, my wife thought it was just harmless banter, but I didn't, and told her I didn't think so. As it continued, she finally realized I was right, so when I had to tell him to knock it off, she was relieved. It took 3 incidents for him to finally get the message. OP responds, "My wife is mad at herself because she's usually so careful. She's had so many incidents when she was younger with guys she was friendly to that ended up making unwanted advances." User CaseyRay87 comments, "So, this guy was at your wedding. I wonder what he was thinking at the wedding. Were they already married on your wedding day?" OP responds, "He was one of my groomsmen. He got very drunk, and no, they were engaged at the time." So the main and unfortunate ending commentary that I would just kind of want to add here is that while a lot of people are trying to push for a restraining order because of what there is, or more of a lack thereof of what there is, I don't know if there's enough for a restraining order to be granted. You could always try and see if you get lucky with the judge, but based upon what's here, photos being taken in a public place and him just collecting them and cropping them, I don't know if that would be enough to convince the judge, or anyone in the courts for that matter, to grant a restraining order or even a civil protection order, because the photos were taken from a public place and there's enough benefit of the doubt. I'm not trying to dismiss that. I think they should still at least roll the dice and see if they can get a restraining order, but just know that not every restraining order will be granted. And I think in a situation like this, the wife should definitely look at getting a restraining order, or at least just giving it an attempt. Because right now, you guys may not see him as a threat, but once he realizes his charm doesn't have as much of an effect as he thought and the deck is fully stacked against him, you don't know what he might do. And unfortunately, as fucked as it is to say, a restraining order is just a piece of paper. It can't physically stop him from one final act of desperate violence. And that's kind of an unfortunate fact of restraining orders. So, OP having cameras and an alarm system is actually probably the safest thing that he can have in this situation. Now, things would definitely be better with both of them, that's for certain, but a restraining order in the end really only has reactive repercussions. It's not something that can actively stop him from doing whatever he's going to end up doing. So pairing that with cameras and an alarm, that's a good step. And additionally, don't make my words here stop you from getting a restraining order. I'm only just trying to add additional context to the people trying to push for a restraining order, because you're not going to be guaranteed for it to be granted, especially in a circumstance like this, with the limited evidence. The brother-in-law in this story is completely divorced from reality, and that's even why he sent that final email. And I've seen and dealt with stalkers who have meltdowns like this, and in one final act of desperation, these kind of final love letters are unfortunately really common. They happen, they're gross, and it's extremely uncomfortable, and in their heads they believe that by them being vulnerable one final time, it increases the chances of their last shot in order to get the trophy they desire. The dude is entirely divorced from reality. And just real quick, I want to add as kind of just an additional note, there are people who believe that the story is entirely fake because of the comment on full custody. Just to break it down, the lawyer isn't saying that they're going to be guaranteed full custody because the husband cheated. The lawyer is saying that there's a good chance they can get full custody because of the fact that the husband is so divorced from reality, based upon all the documentation they have. Additionally, full custody doesn't mean no visitation. It just means the primary care provider is the wife. Just wanted to clear up that one misunderstanding, because it's one of the most common things I'm seeing in the comment section. But what do you think? This post was collected by Similar Shame 7517. The original OP is Dad Who Stood His Ground, posted in r/entitled people, November 14th, 2021. Entitled Sister-in-Law Stole Our Baby Name. Now she regrets it. Hey y'all, long-time lurker and all that. This is a throwaway account. To cut to the chase, my wife and I spent 4 years trying to get pregnant before the wrong side of 35. We're currently 33 respectively now, and are blessed with a wonderful infant son. My wife has a younger half-sister that she's been in limited contact with for some time. The woman is entitled and toxic, and also her mother's golden child. We've refused to let her or my mother-in-law in the house since they both blatantly tried to make off with my wife's jewelry box a couple of months ago. The box contained a lot of valuable jewelry inherited from my wife's grandmother. Said jewelry is now in a safety deposit box, as per my suggestion. My wife and I had nearly given up trying to conceive when it suddenly happened, and we were ecstatic. After we found out we were having a boy, we started looking into names. I ended up suggesting the name of my Scottish grandfather, and my wife loved it. So that's the name we settled on, but we made the mistake of posting about it on social media. Well, no surprise to the stereotype in this mess, my sister-in-law was pregnant too, and was months further along than my wife, and also having a boy. She decided to claim my grandfather's name for her own son, and not just the first name, but the middle name too. We called her pissed over what she was doing, and she smugly told us there's nothing we can do about it. Which she was sorta right. There was nothing we could do about it legally, as it's not a crime to steal planned baby names. We realized that drama was exactly what my sister-in-law wanted, and she thought by taking the name for herself, we'd not be able to use it. I laughed and told her that, while what she did was dirty and underhanded, we would keep our chosen name, and she could just deal with it, whether she decides to go through with copying us or not. Well, my sister-in-law's baby daddy called me and said I was an unreasonable dick for still wanting to use the name after sister-in-law claimed it. I said she claimed nothing, and since we couldn't own the name, then neither could they. Before he ended the call, he threatened me by saying I'd be sorry if we didn't change the name. Then he hung up before I could respond. Months later, sister-in-law has a healthy baby boy and names him my grandfather's name. We did not show up for the birth, both because of the pandemic and because we simply didn't care to be there. Sister-in-law called us wanting congratulations, but we told her we simply didn't care, and that if she was still insisting we change our baby's name, then she'd be in for some big disappointment because we were not. Sister-in-law demanded I put my wife on the phone, but it was already on speaker, and my wife spoke up and said she agrees with me entirely. We weren't changing the name. Sister-in-law hung up on us, but soon started sending emails with text walls of names, even suggesting similar ones. I responded back that the name was from my grandfather, and that's why we were not changing it. She shut up, and we didn't hear from her again till after our own son was born. 2 months later, we were blessed with our son. He came out perfect, and we named him just as we'd intended. Well, no surprise, my sister-in-law called us a few days after the birth to scream in our ears that we'd copied her son's name. I pointed out that she was the real copycat since she had no familial ties to the name, and we did. And anyone who looks at our family trees could see that. Then my wife spoke and said that after the attempted theft of her grandmother's jewelry, she no longer considered sister-in-law her sister, and would have nothing to do with her nephew either. For months, we were bombarded with messages and emails from my wife's side of the family. Half were on our side after finding out the whole story, the other half were not. And sister-in-law's baby daddy, true to his word, showed up at my door to make me sorry. I'm not sure what his plan was, but I pretty much towered over him. I'm 6'1" and well built from regular exercise and 3 trips to the gym a week. He, on the other hand, was very skinny and about 5'6" with a baby face that was badly hidden by a slim beard. I told him my house has cameras and to get off my property and never come back. He just yelled a few obscenities at me and drove off in his beat-up old car. Sister-in-law and mother-in-law called us from a different number to yell at me for making sister-in-law's baby daddy feel emasculated. I didn't even threaten the man, just told him to leave and not come back. And if he didn't want to feel emasculated, then he shouldn't have come knocking. Then they tried to bring up the issue of the baby name again and demanded we change our son's name as he's so young, so there's plenty of time to do it. We held our ground and told them that they were bonkers to still think they were in the right after they copied our choice of name just to try and get one over on us. I said sister-in-law didn't even name her son out of love, but out of spite, just to try and stick it to my wife for no good reason. Then my wife called them both out on the way she was treated growing up, how entitled sister-in-law and mother-in-law have always been, and how she was glad to leave them far behind, and she wants nothing from them, and they won't have anything from us. That left sister-in-law sobbing, and mother-in-law called me a royal bastard before hanging up the phone. That was no contact again for a little while sister-in-law called us again sometime later to bitterly tell us we'd won. She and her baby daddy got in a huge fight, and he left. He was apparently very sore that sister-in-law didn't let him even give their son a middle name from his family, and he said he was sick of the bullshit and wanted his son named after him and not some guy he wasn't even related to. Sister-in-law finally caved and they got the boy's birth certificate reissued with a completely new name, which cost sister-in-law around $500, or so she claims. Sister-in-law then demanded we at least compensate her for the name change, plus another $100 for the emotional damage, as now she's going to have to get used to calling her son by a different name. We laughed and said this would have never happened if she hadn't stolen our baby name to begin with. We didn't owe her anything. Since then, we've been no contact with sister-in-law and mother-in-law, but my father-in-law, who's a very nice man and divorced from mother-in-law for obvious reasons, would come by often and loves his grandson. From what he and other relatives told us, the situation between sister-in-law and her baby daddy was pretty tumultuous. But we don't care. Not our monkeys, not our circus. Top comments. This was very satisfying to read. Sister-in-law sounds awful. Lofi responds, she's a completely spoiled, toxic, and petty woman. Her cousin and mother too, so we want nothing to do with a lot of them. An update post, the next day, which mostly focuses on elaborating on the past events with sister-in-law and mother-in-law. Why my wife hates her family. Hi y'all, I didn't elaborate about my wife's extended family in my prior post, but to be frank, they're mostly just plain nasty. My wife has a younger half-sister from her mother's second marriage, but from what I'm told, the half-sister's father was very emotionally and physically abusive to my wife, and didn't stick around more than 10 years before flying the coop for reasons I don't know. And because my wife has a different father, she also had different grandparents. My wife's father is a very nice man, and we get along quite well. He divorced my wife's mother early on in their marriage because she's completely toxic. Because of having different parents, there's a 7-year age gap between my wife and her half-sister. Said half-sister ended up being pretty much the baby of the family, and they paid little attention to my wife once sister-in-law was born. So my wife left to live with her father, full-time, at some point in her teens. And her mother made a huge stink about it because without her, she no longer got child support money. That woman has also been nothing but crass and snide to me since I met her. I think mainly because I'm not rich, since she bluntly said my wife could do better. I make a decent yearly salary, so I cover my expenses just fine, have my own house, and now a wonderful family. Sister-in-law, as I said in the first post, was the golden child. She was brought up pretty much all the stereotypical ways that you can imagine. Never held accountable, never made to pay her own way on anything. Got into all kinds of trouble because she was spoiled rotten. You can think of her as almost having been the embodiment of Veruca Salt, minus the rich enabling dad. And when she first met me, there was quite an awkward and nasty period before she met her baby daddy. Around the time my wife's sister turned 18, she came visiting us more often. And also started asking to spend the night on weekends. I left that decision up to my wife, and she allowed it because she hoped it'd help her and her sister become closer as siblings. But over time I noticed sister-in-law was hanging around me more. And she was dressing in skimpier clothes and complimenting me a lot. She loved to pinch my arms and said I was like a Ken doll with muscles. Then one day she actually tried to put her hand on my crotch. That was the last straw, and I told her to leave. She said I didn't know what I was missing before my wife laid into her, and they had a huge fight. Sister-in-law said my wife didn't deserve a man like me before storming out. I guess sister-in-law found me attractive and thought she could take me away from my wife. Or perhaps she just wanted to bait me. I don't know. But I do know that I'd never let something like that happen. I love my wife dearly. She's a positively radiant woman who knows how to make me smile every day. I could never be unfaithful to her. But sister-in-law didn't give up. She got her cousin in on things and continued to harass us. Sister-in-law heavily flirted with me on multiple occasions whenever we visited mother-in-law over the next couple of years. She even started getting her cousin involved, and together, they actually ganged up on me at a family Halloween party once. They were both dressed in skimpy animal ear cosplay outfits and actually proposed we go upstairs and have a threesome together. I not only declined, but said they both need to find some nice single guys their own age, then immediately told my wife what happened. She laid into them in front of everyone at the event, but mother-in-law sided with her golden child and got several other relatives to have her back by claiming I was lying to make trouble. So we just left to avoid more drama. Around the time sister-in-law's 21st birthday came and went, mother-in-law called us furious that we missed the birthday and didn't even send a gift. And apparently sister-in-law was crying over it. I said I was not comfortable around sister-in-law because she attempted to seduce me multiple times, and my wife said that it was not my choice but hers whether or not to send a gift. And she didn't want to because of what sister-in-law did, and mother-in-law never even so much as scolded her for it. Mother-in-law called it young hormones and said families shouldn't be so cruel to each other. There was also another big fight between mother-in-law and my wife, and we went limited contact with the bulk of her family for a while. Then, 2 years ago, my wife's grandmother died. She left most of what she had to her son, my father-in-law, but among the things my wife got was all her jewelry. It was all vintage antique jewelry that had been passed down to only women in the family for years, and we had the collection appraised and was valued as a whole at several $100,000 because the jewelry was not only vintage, but some of it was around 200 years old. We decided it was best to keep the jewelry locked away in the grandmother's jewelry box, which in itself is also a valuable handmade antique. We figured that was it, but all was not well with mother-in-law and sister-in-law. They had both shown up at the reading of my wife's grandmother's will, and mother-in-law was appalled she got nothing. Even more so after finding out my wife got the jewelry. My wife's grandmother had no relationship with sister-in-law at all, and barely one with mother-in-law. So sister-in-law wasn't even mentioned in the will. Mother-in-law threatened to take us to court and contest the will. Yeah, because that would work. But never did. Instead, she tried getting nicer to us, and my wife decided to give them one last chance and allowed them into our home again. But as soon as our backs were turned, they tried to make off with the jewelry and all its contents. I'd gone out to pick up some pre-ordered food for dinner, and my wife was distracted by mother-in-law. Sister-in-law had pretended to use the bathroom and raided my wife's vanity. But I caught sister-in-law outside by sheer chance when I pulled in the driveway because I wasn't gone as long as they'd hoped. As soon as my headlights flashed her, she dropped the box on the ground before jumping in mother-in-law's car and locking herself in. Wife and mother-in-law came running out when they heard me cursing up a storm. Wife saw the smashed jewelry box and freaked out. Mother-in-law realized she and sister-in-law were caught and had a huge fit over how she believed my wife didn't deserve the jewelry. I got between them, and mother-in-law hit me a few times, and even drew some blood with her sharp nails, but she drove off before we could get another word in once my wife said she was calling the police. We left the evidence untouched on the ground and called the police. Mother-in-law and sister-in-law were arrested, but basically got a slap on the wrist with only community service and a fine. The jewelry box was badly damaged. It had a long crack that started up one corner and went all the way up to the top. And one of the brass hinges broke. I took it to someone who restores old stuff, and it costed hundreds of dollars to restore it. I went to see mother-in-law and said she and sister-in-law were paying for the repairs to the box or we'd be taking them to court over it. Mother-in-law told me that wasn't happening, until I brought up the fact that we still have documented police evidence sister-in-law tried to steal the box, and I could also sue mother-in-law for the assault she did to me. She wrote me out a check to cover the damages right away and told me to leave. I said that the check better not bounce or have a stop payment put on it, or I'd had zero problem taking her and sister-in-law to court. The check thankfully cleared without issue. We got the jewelry box back, looking even better than it did before, but we decided the jewelry wasn't safe in our home anymore, and had it put in a secure safety deposit box, where it has remained to this day. This incident was also what made us decide our home needed cameras, and we've since installed some. Then, from my first post, you all know what sister-in-law did by copying the baby name my wife and I chose, which was also the name of my grandfather, so you can read how that went. What I didn't say in that post was how much my wife's other relatives that sided with sister-in-law put us through, especially mother-in-law and sister-in-law's cousin. Mother-in-law called and texted us repeatedly from a variety of different numbers demanding we change our son's name, both before and after he was born. We never once even humored her, and the cousin harassed us online multiple times. I ended up pointing out the time sister-in-law and her cousin had cornered and tried to proposition me, and then the cousin blocked me on Facebook when more people started questioning us both about it, since mother-in-law had kept that situation on heavy damage control back then. Several false rumors were spread about us, and my wife's family ended up divided, and are still divided now because of this. But mother-in-law, sister-in-law, sister-in-law's cousin, and a few other family members close to them were fully on their side. They believed that it didn't matter where sister-in-law got her baby's name. Said name was hers now, and we needed to let it go. I fired back that there was nothing to let go. Sister-in-law copied the name we had, and we still used it because it was my grandfather's name. We weren't asking sister-in-law to change her kid's name. We just weren't going to change our son's name because she copied it. And since we weren't going to associate with them anymore, the two kids would be complete strangers to each other anyway. The false rumors spread about me and my wife were pretty bad. For me personally, sister-in-law tried to claim I was secretly into younger women, and I'd leave my wife as soon as she hit 40. And she also tried to say that my son isn't really mine, and claimed my wife had an affair because I wasn't getting her pregnant. I never asked her to do it because I never believed them, but my wife got a DNA test just to prove I am my son's father to them. After that, the rumor mill died down and eventually stopped. After the mess where sister-in-law and her baby daddy nearly broke up and she changed her child's name, we were paid a visit by the cousin. She demanded we pay the money we owed to sister-in-law for the name change. And when we refused, she screamed at us that we ruined sister-in-law's relationship. And now her child's new name will always be a reminder of what we did. I simply told her to leave as we didn't start this mess, and we didn't even try to end it. We just wanted no part of it. Sister-in-law's cousin flipped me the bird with both hands and said she wished she could do it with her toes too. I can flip people out with my toes. Then left. Before she got in her car, I said if she ever tried to come back, I'd call the police and file for a restraining order. And that's pretty much it. As we were and still are completely no contact with mother-in-law and sister-in-law and the cousin too. Top comment. That's one crazy family. They need to get their own lives instead of obsessing about yours. I'm glad your side of the family is sane and happy, and I hope the crazies are just a funny story to tell from here on. I don't even really have words to say about it besides going no contact is 100% the correct option. I am very happy to have the full context as to why the family is in the position that it is, because hearing about the jewelry box definitely raised an eyebrow, but with the full context, it's just kind of a good fucking lord, the nerve of some people. Sometimes I need to actively remind myself that when you go looking for crazy, you're bound to find crazy, and this is one of those stories where it's definitely like that. Sometimes I do wonder if people like mother-in-law and sister-in-law, if they actually genuinely believe that they are in the right in every situation and can't fathom or understand what they're doing is wrong, or if they know what they're doing is wrong, but they're manipulating everyone else to think they're in the right so that way they can justify their incorrect actions. I don't know which one it is, and I don't know which one is worse, because they're both pretty bad. Anyway, after this extra long episode, don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below, and yeah, if you made it this far, tell your dog or cat or bird or lizard or just your pet, your favorite pet, that I said hi. And if you have more than one favorite pet, well then I guess they're all gonna be told hi. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.